Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I am so excited to have Jeff on this podcast. And Jeff is the Million Heir Mentor, Creating Wealth Through Stewardship. And he's also the author of the book Affinity to Influence. And he's also launching his new podcast, Right on Radio, very soon. And just before we get into the interview today, I just want to quickly remind you that if you're looking to learn how to speak to potential clients powerfully, I suggest you download my newest book, Power Words, Attract High-Paying Clients and Customers, by going to www.powerwords.pro/free book. So Jeff, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Kim. And since you announced my new podcast is coming up, it'll actually be launching later on this month. I must say, right on, right on, right on.
Well, I have Jeff's book here, Affinity to Affluence. And we're going to talk about this a little later in the podcast, but you can get this on Amazon, and I highly suggest that you go and do that. I mean, I know for a fact that this is a really great book, and I had the honor and privilege of helping Jeff with a few things on this book. So get it. It's really good. If you've ever wanted to know how to attract wealth and live your desired life, then this is the book for you to read. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, it depends how far you want me to go back. Everyone's got a story, of course, but really the story for me, as far as my book is concerned and my adult journey, when I was in my late 20s, I had a daughter. And with little warning, I became a single father of a 10-month-old.
Wow.
And what I was doing for a living at the time did not gel with a new lifestyle of raising a daughter on your own without a great support system. So I essentially had lost my income and started burning through my savings pretty quick. Had to leave a beautiful home in Claremont on acres of property. It was just a dream living there. To move to a basement apartment. And I had to sell my car.
Wow.
And things got really desperate for me. But in that time, I had found faith, or faith that found me, rather. And at the time, a man came into my life. His name was Tim. And he was actually my first mentor. I didn't even know I was being mentored. But he started to teach me things about business. And I started studying things about business and how money works. And from a historical perspective and a worldview perspective. In other words, seeing the bigger picture, because not everything in this world is as it seems or follows a narrative that is portrayed in this world. And when I started discovering the things about money, the money system in this world really wants you to be a slave. And let me qualify that, because a lot of people hearing that word would say, well, slavery ended over 100 years ago. I think it was in the 1850s. Well, the slavery that you're familiar with, which was obviously bad, and it's great that it's gone, but a new type of slavery started. And it's a financial slavery. And the borrower is slave to the debtor.
Yes.
So most people think having a home, for instance, is your biggest investment. Well, it's not an investment. It's maybe a forced savings account. But if you even look at the word mortgage and where it comes from, it's derived from two words. the first word is mort, and the second word is gauge. The meaning of mortgage is a measure of death. Now, if you have a mortgage and someone says, hey, listen, I got a great thing going on in the Philippines, let's go for a month. Well, I can't. I have a mortgage. So, and by the way, don't hear anything I'm not saying. I'm not saying don't get a mortgage by any means. For some people, that is a very good thing to do. I personally have a mortgage, and I encourage other people to, but there's ways of turning mortgages into assets instead of debts, which set you free. So the financial slavery is something that I started learning about, and I started applying these principles in my life. And there was one particular day, I remember, Kim, that I was down to my very last $10.
Oh, wow. That's a rough place.
No income. Have a little daughter. She was about, 3, maybe 4 at the time. And for some reason, the teaching just hit me. And I understood a greater meaning of what I was taught. And it was taught the historical meaning of money. And by the way, there's families in this world, elite families, dynasty families, and families that have money for years and years and years, and they pass this knowledge down through their families. It's just not taught in schools.
Yes.
So that's with the new moniker, Million Heir Mentor. It's actually million and heir as a separate word, HEIR, because I believe wealth is supposed to be created generationally. But back to that day, down to my last dollars, it was probably late in the morning, and I was just overcome with joy.
Oh,
all of
really?
a sudden, yeah, I know. And I literally dropped down to my knees and I said, thank you. I said, I don't know where this is going, but this is the greatest lesson of my life. And I was sincere, like my heart was really sincere in saying thank you. And I knew things would be okay. Later that afternoon, an anonymous envelope with $500 was placed in my mailbox. Now, $500 might be a lot of money to you. It might not be. To me, that was a lot of money. That was another month of living almost. And a few days later, I got a call from an old client. Within a couple weeks, I was on a plane to Dubai. I flew first class. I stayed in a 5-star hotel. I had 24-hour limo service. And by the way, I went to Goodwill and bought a $10 suit to do this business trip. And my life started turning around from that moment on. And if there's any advice I would give right away to anyone listening and is going through some struggles, realize that your struggles are by design and they're by permission. And whether you believe in God or the universe, it doesn't matter, because the laws apply to you no matter what your beliefs are. And when you're thankful for what you have that gratitude attitude, things just start turning around.
Yes. And I guess by this point too, you had some help and support, because obviously you had to leave your daughter at home.
Yes, my mother and my daughter's mother and her parents did step up to help.
Nice. That is amazing. The power of gratitude.
The power of gratitude. And also I would throw in one other thing to that. Well, I could give you a list, to be honest, but you know me, Kim. The other thing I would put in there is dare to dream.
Yes.
And you know, things start out as fantasies, but when you can start to dream about them, you could start to see a path where that fantasy or your dream actually can become reality. And no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, you're made for more.
Yes.
And you are made to thrive in this world. And you have a superpower.
Ha! Tell me a little bit more about that.
You are born with a superpower. Most people have, and that's an assumption, most people have not activated it. Your superpower is, oh, we should have a drum roll or something here. Your superpower is creationism.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Explain that.
You can create your own reality. You can create that wealth that you want. You can create prosperity. You can create better relationships. You can create better health for yourself. Every thought that you have has power. So to activate your superpower, you need to start eliminating the false beliefs. And by the way, most of these false beliefs have been put into you by someone else and you believed them.
And probably mostly in childhood too.
Mostly in childhood. You know, you can't do that. Or, you know, being your parents not letting you fail could be very traumatic for a kid. And, you know, I don't buy into this program where everyone gets a trophy. You know, losing and failing are the best lessons you can ever experience. So when you're embarrassed, when you fall flat on your face, be thankful. You just learned, okay, I'm going to tie my shoes. You know? Wow, I'm never going to do that again. That is a lesson, and be thankful for it. And when you are, even though it hurts, wow, it's amazing what can happen in your life. And it's not just in my life, it's just not in Kim's life. And I know some of Kim's story too. Kim, you've done such amazing work, and I'm so happy to know you, and I've worked with you, and the things you've accomplished. And congratulations on this podcast as well. I think
Thank you.
Many, many lives.
You know, I think when we talk about failure, people don't realize the valuable lessons in failure. You know, when you fail and you get up and you try again and you learn, there's a confidence that is built within you because you learn that you have failed and yet you're still okay.
Yeah.
The world has not ended.
That's right.
And that you can go on. And, you know, I have failed my way through any of the success that I've achieved. You know, I learned by doing, failing, figuring it out. Oh, wow, it finally worked. But then when it did work, it was like amazing because I had already made all the mistakes that could be made. So now I was ready to move forward in power because not that I still didn't make mistakes, but, you know, I conquered the big ones first.
Were they mistakes or were they realizations of what does not work?
Ah, I like that. Yes. Yes, realizations of what doesn't work. I'm going to have to write that one down and put it on a Post-it note on my wall.
I forget the exact number, but you know the famous example is Edison and the creation of the light bulb. I think it was 1,000 or 14,000. It was some astronomical number of ways that did not work.
Yes.
And then eventually you got a light bulb that worked. Pretty big impact.
So we've already been talking a little bit about it, but I know you've prepared some really great tips for our listeners. And why don't you share those with us?
Well, I would go back to saying, gratitude, attitude, dare to dream. One of the most important things to do, though, is to steward what you have. And stewardship is the taking care of things and being thankful and respecting what you have. If you don't take care of the things you have, will you be granted more? Will you get more? Well, probably not. You're not thankful for them. If you keep giving kids gifts and they don't care, they don't thank you, they don't acknowledge that, are you going to continue giving those gifts?
No.
And life seems to work that way. I shouldn't say seems. There's plenty of evidence that life works that way. And so stewarding is definitely something. And there's also another point that I would give. And this is contrary to a lot of advice that is given today. So you might get hate mail for this. Please address your hate mail to Kim Thompson-Pinder at the Author to Authority podcast.
Gee, thanks.
You could forward it to me, Kim. Everybody says, take action. Take action. If you don't take action, you won't get results. Except most of those people who are saying take action are saying, take action, buy my $10,000 program. And they are right. And most of those programs are very good. I've gone through some of them. They've changed my life. But not only that, but take action and everything in life. And I would say, whoa, hold back. For some people, taking immediate action is the right thing to do. If you're a carpenter and you know that your skill set is firmly in carpentry and you decide to redo your kitchen, then by all means, take action. But if you're in a change of life, if you're in a transformation, and someone says, take action, I would say, stop, think about it, start to develop a strategic plan.
Yes.
Start to have your goal. Start to think about your dream and work backwards from your dream. See how and what your path is, and then take action. And I had this realization, well, through many different circumstances, but one thing that is prolific today, Kim, and that's happening all over the place is, everyone's becoming a YouTube star today. And I believe that everyone has an important message, so I encourage you to start broadcasting. I encourage you to start sharing things. But if you don't have a goal and you don't have a direction, you could be doing harm to yourself. Here's my point. I see people who have taken that advice, take action, just start broadcasting, and they broadcast useless stuff.
Yes.
And when something comes across my feed on a social media or something like that, and they've got my attention because I care about that person, but they're broadcasting nonsense, I'm not going to stop the next time I see them.
Yes.
So add value. Think about what you're doing. Have some purpose in it and take action, and you will see results.
And I think, too, speaking to what you just said, I think it has to be two things. First of all, you can't, like you said, you can't take action without a plan. But I think sometimes we just run headlong into things because somebody said take action that we were never meant to do.
That's right. And sometimes it'll work for you, again, if you're comfortable in who you are and it's already in your wheelhouse.
Yes.
Then it's fine. But I just want to put out that word of caution, and I trust that someone will hear that message.
Like, I can tell you for sure that someone could say to me, oh, you can make money as a computer repair person. No, you do not want me as a computer repair person. I could probably get your computer apart. Don't know if I could get it back together again.
Yes.
Right? So, it's taking action. And I think it's also taking targeted action. Not just any action, but action that actually moves you forward, not just scatters you to the wind.
So there's a couple different ways and means of planning. The way I like to do things, and I break things down to smaller denominations, and there's a strategic plan, which is just the overall umbrella. If I'm in your program, Kim, and I'm writing a book for the first time, well, my plan is to write a book. It's to get on stage and to transform people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the strategic plan. And then there's the tactile planning. Tactile planning means you're going to roll with the punches a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe it's not as easy to get on stages as you thought it would be, or, maybe there's other obstacles that come up and get in your way. Well, you have to deal with those. And the tactical planning can always change, but still maintain your strategic goal. And if you just worry about the big goal, don't fret all the details.
Mm-hmm.
You can take action.
Awesome. So let's transition a little bit here, because I want to talk a little bit about your book. And again, it's Affinity to Affluence, and it's available on Amazon. So tell me a little bit about what it was like working on this book and just really getting it done.
Well, it was a challenge. It's actually not that hard to write a book. For me, I originally started writing a book about real estate. I got into real estate a number of years ago and started seeing quite a bit of success and started seeing a pathway forward for many people to accumulate wealth with real estate. And I started talking to some friends about it, and it just went over their heads. And by the way, it's really simple. The skill requirement is grade 5 math. Have you seen the show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? The good news is you don't have to be smarter than a fifth grader. You only have to have grade 5 math. So I started telling people but they weren't getting it. So I started to reflect on this, and instead of writing a book on this real estate, and actually real estate is a very small part of this book, Affinity to Affluence, what I realized, Kim, is that people really needed 3 things, in my estimation, and it's somewhat of my story and my manifesto in many ways. And the 3 things are, you need to get your mind in the game. If you do not have your mind in the game, if you're struggling with limiting beliefs saying, well, I can't do that because I don't have this, or, whatever it is holding you back, you're never going to be able to take the next step. So I actually spend, almost half the book addressing that from many different angles. And I'm proud to say, I believe I got a bit of a download, and I gave some areas that I don't think anyone else has really addressed in writing before. So there's some really unique ways to look at mindset and how laws of the universe work. But then if you get your mind in the game, you're going to need some basic skills. Yes. And I talk about some basic skills, and they're generic, because if you're in business, and everyone is in business in some form, you need to have some skills. And lastly, because the subtitle is Attract Wealth and Live Your Desired Life, I talk a little bit about what a desired life is, and it might not be as apparent as you think. If many people might say, well, my desired life is sitting on a beach and having the waiter or waitress bringing my drinks every day, and I'm feeling the cool breeze on my toes from the ocean and stuff like that, and there's nothing more to life. Guess what? That's probably not going to happen for you. And you would go nuts after about a month of that. Or I would. I won't speak for everybody listening, but I would go crazy. You're made for more, and you're made to thrive. That's not thriving. That's giving up. That's going backwards, actually. So, getting back to the process of writing a book, for me, because I am somewhat diversified professionally, I've had the pleasure of working in audio. Audio has been a passion of mine since I was about 3 years old. And I run a business that focuses on audio, and we do lots of great projects for hotels, casinos, restaurants, and things like that. So I've always had that business. I do some real estate and a few other things. And jumping from one thing to the other is a mindset shift. And getting in the zone to proceed on my book and getting in the creative, some people, well, multitasking doesn't work for anyone. But if anyone's going to attempt it, women are much better at it. That's not a scientific study I performed. It's an observation. But as a man, I don't go between these worlds really super easy. So
do you want to hear a funny thing?
Please.
So I don't know the man's name. I saw this on it was like a video on Facebook, and this guy was talking about the male brain and the female brain. And the male brain was boxes, and men's brains work in boxes. So everything is done one box at a time. So you work in the one box, you close that box, you shift to the next box. Women's brain is like spaghetti. Everything is connected to everything else, and you just jump. You just go back and forth. Okay, so this is this, and this, and everything is related to everything else. So I think that's why women probably can multitask a little bit better, because to us, everything's connected. So why not multitask?
And thank goodness for the difference.
Amen.
Thank goodness for the difference between men and women. Together, we kind of, it all works out,
So tell me, what was the hardest part for you in writing this book and getting it published?
Well, you will know this for sure, Kim. The hardest part, and by the way, Kim, you rescued me in many ways in this process. I originally had someone else doing some work for me on the book, as you know, as far as some editing and just helping with some grammar things that I wanted to accomplish in the book. And I had a deadline because I had set a deadline. I was turning 50 years old, and I very rarely celebrate my birthday. But I thought, why not celebrate this birthday with a new chapter in life and launch a book and hire a rock star to play the party? And, just
it was a cool party.
It was a very cool party. And some of the greatest people in the world in attendance, including yourself, Kim. And thank you so much for coming. And so having the deadline and jumping from one creative process to another type of creative process, I found was difficult. Not everyone is in the same situation as I am, but I will say the one thing that really helped me get through it, first of all, having someone like Kim to hold you accountable would be a good thing. Also, if you have a wife who likes to hold a weapon, saying, better get this done.
Oh, yes, I know Giovanni.
that is a good thing. Her gentle encouragement. Gentle and loving encouragement.
To your behind, right?
she did help put the pressure on, and so having great people around you, in other words, is very, very important. If I posted something not too long ago, if you can accomplish your goal is too small. Because if you, in the singular, can accomplish your goal, it's way too small. You should need a community of people around you. And by the way, if you want $1 million idea, the more people you can lift up into leadership roles around you, the more money you will have. So, but the other thing in the creative process, Kim, that I was getting to do that transition, I really fell into meditation. And I would take a quiet time where I would shut off my phone, I would cancel all distractions, and I would sit there and just try to listen, and then let the creative flow proceed, and not take distractions during that creative thing. So, it's not a bad thing to, put a sign on your door, don't bug me until 11:30, or something like that. And that was really helpful.
That is awesome. All right. So, Jeff, how can people get a hold of you, connect with you? And do you have anything that you would like to offer today?
Well, my book is always up for offer. I actually don't do much coaching. I don't believe in trading. Affinity To Affluence.com, and you can get the direct link to Amazon from there. But one of the ways I'd ask you to connect with me is if you search my name on Facebook, you'll see a black and white face picture. That's my business page. And I'd encourage you to go there, because I'm going to actually be giving away some really cool stuff that will make a difference in your life. So please like that page. And also, if you want to search on Facebook, search for Right On Radio. And the website is being built right now. The episodes will be coming out soon. And if I can just talk about this podcast for a moment, because I'm super excited about it, Kim.
Okay, so but just before you do, it's right as in RIGHT, Right On Radio.
Right on, right on, right on. Who's right? He's right. So, listen, the tagline for the broadcast is live right in the real world. And what the show, first of all, the show is going to be entertaining. And there will only be select few episodes that are videoed. For instance, when I interview some great guests, I will probably do it on video. But there's a certain magic that happens when it's just audio. And, I remember as a kid listening to these audio stories and audio broadcasts and some of the great radio hosts that would bring on guests, and the guests, were characters, and we could paint pictures, and it could be funny, and it's always funnier in your mind. And by the way, and in your mind, if you were just listening to this podcast in audio, you would probably think that I'm a well-spoken young man who's handsome. And if you see the video, you'll have a different picture than the one that was formulated in your mind.
Well, maybe not quite so. You did say you were 50 years old, so.
Yeah, well, I'm 51 now. And yes, that is chrome. But the live right in the real world really takes a worldview approach. So there's going to be many different segments. Some are going to be funny. Some are just going to deal with realities in the world today. And it's not necessarily picking sides. It's actually picking on everybody. and just talking about a different way to look at the world. And some people are going to strongly agree with the things I say. Some people will strongly disagree. And by the way, if you disagree, it's possibly even more entertaining for you, because then you can write hate mail. And, I would love to get that. And by the way, I'll probably read it on air. So spell your name correctly. But at the end of each broadcast, I'm also going to give out something transformational.
Yes.
From books that I read, I heavily believe in books. I have some really great people in my life, Kim, and, much of my success is actually attributed to the people that are around me and the people I look up to, the mentors that I have, and I have several of them. But I've gotten some really great advice, and sometimes a good mentor can just say one thing that the vibration of it, the frequency of it just resonates inside of you. And not every episode will have that for each person, but you'll get something. Yes. And something that will transform you. And so it's always going to end on a very positive note, and the episodes will come out once a week, the regular episodes, but between weeks there's going to be weekly episodes. There will be bonus episodes where I'm going to be giving away some really, really great stuff. So we'll break the show format. So for instance, I may just do a chapter a week from my book.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
And others. And I'm going to do giveaways and all kinds of things. So why the delay for the broadcast? I've actually recorded a few episodes already, but being the technical guy that I am, especially with audio, I created new gear.
Nice.
Something that's specifically, because I started recording in a traditional way, using a little bit of software on the computer and a microphone. But I said, what if this was on the market? And so I started looking. And there's one company that kind of came close to my vision. I started realizing it really didn't do things well, and the reviews on it weren't very well. And I said, if it only had this and this and this. And a few days later, a company announces exactly what I had dreamed up. Nice. And I'm like the first guy to pre-order this equipment that's just going to take my broadcast to a whole new level.
Cool.
And give it the professionalism that I really desire for it to have, because it is about the listeners. It's about being entertaining. It's about being informative. And I just want it to be a great experience, as this has been with you, my friend Kim.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And this has been the Author to Authority podcast. And thank you, Jeff, for just really sharing with us some valuable material today. I encourage each and every one of you to go to affinitytoaffluence.com. Get your copy of the book. Check out Jeff on Facebook. I know also that you do some live events. So if you're on Facebook, you'll see how you can see Jeff live and in person. And this has been the Author to Authority podcast. We'll see you soon.